modern world may be thought of as starting with the invention of printing. So now let's take a look at this important industry as we follow Ben and the new apprentice around their printing works.
Let's see the beginning of the printing process first. When a job is received from the customer, it may be sent to the design office, where the designer takes the copy, that is the written part, and the illustrations, and arranges them to give an attractive and appropriate layout. The people working here usually come from either art schools or colleges and have had training in typographic design. Some of the best examples of design nowadays can be seen in high-class publicity brochures. When the layout's been completed and agreed to by the customer, the job is passed on to the keyboard operator. The monotype keyboard here is like a large typewriter, but with many more keys, so that different kinds of letters such as italics, capitals and so on will be printed.
Is this where the printing is done then?
No, the keyboard machine produces a roll of perforated paper, which is used later to control a machine that casts the type. Here, the perforated paper on this typecasting machine controls the position of a matrix case. This is made up of pieces of phosphor bronze with accurately punched impressions so that individual castings are made of just the right shape and size for each letter. Individual letters are cast in type metal, that is an alloy of lead, tin and antimony, at a speed of about 10,000 characters an hour, and with a size tolerance of about 1/10,000th of an inch. The characters are formed into a line, and then the whole line is pushed out onto the galley. Different letter shapes are required for Roman capitals, Roman lowercase, bold capitals and bold lowercase, italic capitals, italic lowercase and small capitals. A galley proof of the type is now taken and sent to the readers for checking. Here, Linda, the copy holder, is reading the copy to the reader, who marks any corrections that may be necessary.
Equipment is designed so that a large number of tests can be taken along the entire length, and in any
Linda is coming with us when they have finished that galley.
A combination of equipment, including a vacuum spectrometer and a computer.
Are you ready, Linda?
Yes. Is it all right to go now?
The marked proof has been passed to the compositor. Here he's transposing a letter. Now he's removing faulty type and replacing with good type from his case, in which he has the whole range of letters available. He's now setting a headline with larger type, which will be placed in the appropriate position as marked on the proof. When illustrations are required, half-tone blocks have to be made at a photo engraver's. To enable us to get all shades of grey from black ink and white paper, the picture is made up of hundreds of tiny dots, as you can see from this enlargement. The close-up of the eye in this picture shows the dot formation very clearly. The half-tone blocks for the pictures are placed in position, and the completed page is tied up to hold everything together. As a further check, another trial print or page proof is made for the customer's approval. Here we have several pages arranged in what we call a form, so that we can print them all in one go. Over there, Dennis is making up a form on the stone. We call it that because it used to be made of stone. A page is being placed in position inside a metal frame called a chase. The page is now untied. Spacing material is inserted, and then the whole form is locked up so that later it can be lifted off the stone and transferred to the printing machine. The form is placed on the bed of this Heidelberg letterpress machine and then locked into position. The ink that is used is not watery and runny as you might expect, but quite thick, and has to be worked at the right consistency before being fed to the machine. A proof is taken on special paper which is processed to produce a mechanical overlay. This overlay will be placed on the cylinder of the printing machine to increase the pressure on the paper in the inked areas in order to give density of colour in the dark areas and to reduce the impression in the highlights. You will notice that the printed areas on this overlay are now slightly raised. With the overlay in position, a sheet is printed as a final proof. The paper is taken round by the cylinder on this press and comes into contact with the inked form. While the sheet is being delivered at the other end, the form comes back to be re-inked. After the proof has been carefully checked, the printing can commence. The individual sheets of paper are picked up by suckers and fed to a series of grippers on the impression cylinder. These machines are capable of producing a very high standard of printing at speeds up to 4,000 impressions per hour. As the sheets gently float onto the pile, they are sprayed with a powder so that fresh ink does not mark the sheet above. Let's move on now. These sheets have already been printed on one side, and when they are dry, the other side will be printed. For smaller jobs, a platen machine may be used. The principle is the same as before. The form is inked and the paper brought into contact with it. The paper removed and the form re-inked for the next piece. Of course, some letterpress machines are much larger and faster than those we have seen, particularly the newspaper presses.
As you can appreciate, emphasis is on speed right the way through the production of a newspaper. Linotype and intertype machines are used to produce the type. These machines give a complete line of type cast as one piece. Computer-assisted typesetting is also used, and after the copy has been typed on electric typewriters, the computer produces perforated paper tape, which operates the linotype machine automatically. This allows the machine to work at maximum speed, independent of the keyboard speed of the operator. Under heavy pressure, a paper matrix is produced from the form, which has previously been made up on the stone, with the headlines and half-tones all in place. This matrix is used to produce the curved stereo plates from which the newspaper is printed. On this automated stereo caster, the plate is cast, trimmed and cooled with water, and the scrap metal returned to the melting pot. When the last plate has been clamped in position, the press is ready to run. Gradually brought up to speed, and at full speed this newspaper press can print a 48-page paper at the rate of 45,000 copies an hour.
Letterpress isn't the only way to do printing. On this lithoproofing press we print from a flat plate. Damping rollers first wet the non-printing areas so that when ink is applied it goes only onto the part that's to be printed. The ink is then offset from this rubber sheet to the paper.
How does the image get on the plate?
We use photographic negatives. If we want to print a colour picture like this, we must make a separate negative for each colour. First, we print the yellow part. The blue is added to give this, then the red, and finally black to make the picture crisper. To get the correct negatives for this 3 or 4 colour printing, we can either use the original with filters, or we can use this complex electronic scanner. With the scanner we can take account of the impurity of colour of the ink and the paper, as we can never get pure colours or pure white paper. The transparency is placed on one drum and the scanner automatically computes the intensities of the individual primary colours and produces a colour separation negative on the film at the other end. Using a very large camera, these negatives must be rephotographed to produce a half-tone positive, because, as with letterpress, we cannot get a continuous tone print. To produce the text, we either photograph a proof from a typeset layout or use the film from a film setter. All these pieces of film now have to be assembled together in their correct position, and corrections made if necessary. Now that we have got the film completed, we must use it to put the image onto a printing plate. A light sensitive coating is applied to a sheet of aluminium in this whirler. When the coating has been dried, the plate is put into a vacuum printing frame and the film placed accurately on the coated side. The frame is closed and air exhausted to make sure that the film and plate are in complete contact, and then the exposure is made. The plate is processed, and after washing it is ready to go to the proofing press we saw earlier. Here, another processed plate is being fitted on the cylinder of this litho machine. The non-printing areas of the plate are kept damp by these damping rollers. The ink is fed onto the plate by a further set of rollers. The image is offset onto the rubber-covered cylinder and finally transferred to the paper sheet. This machine only prints one colour at a time, so if we want full colour reproduction, the paper has to be printed separately 3 or 4 times. On some machines, we can print more than one colour onto the paper at a time.
Do you print boxes here?
No, this is usually a specialised job.
Using 4-colour litho presses, such as this one, the cardboard for carton manufacture is printed. After printing, the cardboard undergoes a further processing to make the finished carton. First, a cutting form is made in the die-making department, where the die makers work to a very high standard of accuracy to ensure that every carton will be exactly the same. The cutting form consists of blocks of plywood with knives to cut the outline of the carton and blunt rules to make the creases. When the die is completed, it is put into the cutting and creasing machine, in which the blunt rules press the cardboard, thus making the creases, whilst the sharp knives cut out the outline. The sheets emerge lightly held together, but almost completely severed, and with all the cuts and creases in exactly the right position with the printing. After the waste material has been removed, the cartons are glued in special high-speed machines. The carton gluing machine takes the cut and creased blanks one at a time, applies glue, folds them over, and counts them in 50s, holding them under pressure until the glue is set. In some machines, up to 1,000 cartons per minute can be glued in this way.
The printing is now completed, and we're getting near to the end of our tour. Here, the printed sheets are being chopped into 2 on this guillotine. For repetitive work, a magnetic tape program is used to control the guillotine. This machine folds the printed sheets in such a way that the pages finish up in the correct sequence. Books which contain a large number of pages would have several such sections bound together. The separate folded sections are placed in the hoppers on this machine. Each section is taken automatically and is placed outside the previous section until the whole booklet has been put together on this moving assembly rail. The machine stitches each booklet, but is so designed that if the correct number of pages are not present, the stitching does not take place and the sections are rejected. When the stitching has been done, the machine trims the top, bottom and front edge, and the booklets are counted out for the girl to stack ready for checking and packaging. Sometimes a customer requires the printed sheets to be consecutively numbered. Books which have several sections in them have all the sections sewn together before the cover or binding is put on. Here a girl is doing this sewing by hand. When larger quantities are required, this job can be done on complex machinery. Finally, after the work has been checked once again, the finished booklets can be packed in parcels ready for dispatch to the customer.
There's a lot more to printing than I imagined.
Well, the tendency is for people to specialise in certain aspects of the trade. but you'll get a good training here in the general principles, and this will be backed up with training at the local School of Printing.